everybody. Welcome to week 7 of social problems for this winter 26 semester. I can't believe there's only 1 week left after this. It's crazy. This semester is just like flown by. I saw that just about everybody turned in their papers from last week. The essays. Sorry, there's like so much I need to cover in this class because this is second to last week. I know last week's video I kind of went on for a while. We had the essay. Sorry, these videos just, I try to, my goal is to make them 5 minutes and I fail every single time. And I'm sorry. Though I do think that you're paying a lot of money. I mean, relative. It's much cheaper to be here at Macomb than at like Wayne State or something. So I commend you for getting these classes done. I also teach at Wayne State. I have to say, the quality of professors you guys have here is just like top notch. Not to like toot my own horn or toot our collective own horns, but like a lot of these people that teach at Macomb, I've known for a long time. These people are considered our friends, colleagues. They work here, they live in the community, they know their stuff. They're really sharp, very smart people. Um, anyway, this week, the topics are on gender inequality, sexual orientation, and struggle for equality. I kind of put these together once again because of just the need for these 8-week classes. So before diving into that, like I said, I saw that most everybody turned in their essays. I think there was like one or two people that didn't. I was emailing with one person, which is great. If you were one of those other one or two people that didn't, please reach out to me. I would hate to see you, not do well in this class because you didn't turn in this essay that's worth quite a bit. So let me know and we could probably work something out. This week, I have the extra credit availability here that this is worth up to 20 points, and you have these 3 options to either read this kind of long essay about mass incarceration, 13th, watch the documentary 13th, which also is about mass incarceration, and then or watch the film Misrepresentation, which is kind of related to the material we're talking about today. I don't know if anybody has been watching this. This is kind of a great segue, actually, into this week's material. So this is the assignment for it. It's open this week. And then the Dropbox is in the final week's class material. So you'll do whatever it is and then sort of put it in for next week's class. So speaking of which is very culturally relevant, I was watching over the weekend these last few days with my wife. We were watching the new documentary on Netflix for America's Next Top Model about like what happened during that show, and I'll spare any spoilers on it. I have a lot of thoughts about like why did they even make this and like why was Tyra Banks involved if she wasn't really going to say anything of any value or merit and address the complete and utter insanity that was America's Next Top Model, especially in the early 2000s. But I think what was very interesting about it all, watching this as a sociologist who has a background in gender inequality and gender studies, I think what was and my wife too, her undergrad was actually in women's studies at Oakland Community, or Oakland University, sorry. And what was very interesting to me was seeing how this show started out as it was meant to be like disruptive and to like, challenge traditional gender norms in the modeling industry and all of that. And then very quickly they kind of veered right back into what I would call hegemony, right back into this like power of the norm, if you will, that like they just enforced all the shitty things that were going on in the fashion industry, and it just became like another kind of strong arm tool to perpetuate this like body image stuff, like thin culture, like really almost like celebrating eating disorders and like disordered eating and stuff like that. Very kind of I don't want to say traditional, very like white European centric beauty standards of like the closed gap. Like there's the one young woman with like the gap in her tooth, and they like made her undergo that procedure to like close the gap in her tooth, which is insane that she underwent a medical procedure. for this show, and didn't even really, in the end, didn't have much to show for it. Um, yeah, it was very eye opening. I never watched it. I'm a guy. I don't know. I do really like reality TV, but it just wasn't like super on my radar during that time for whatever reason. But my wife was like obsessed with it. It was like very part of her like childhood and stuff. So it was really interesting hearing her kind of perspective on getting to watch that. So anyway, these are really big topics that are just kind of with us, and I feel like this is a point that I want to take a moment to just reiterate. Like I know we're living in this time where I don't even want to just put this on Donald Trump. I feel like there is just a wellspring of anti, I don't know what you want to call it. It's like anti LGBT, anti difference, really. Like want to just kind of stuff people back into the closet and just act like it's all a joke or that people are just like, I really don't know. I can't put my head in the, space of people that are like anti, whatever, anti-trans, anti-LGBT, things like that. Once again, I'd like to reiterate this is not a class about opinions. I don't frankly care what your opinions are about gay people or trans people or whoever it is. You're entitled to them. You're welcome to them. This class is about research and the way that society works. So I feel like we can all agree, like everybody has their opinions about like, I like to say when I talk to Trump supporters and things like that, that one of the cruelest tricks I think that is happening right now is that somehow this administration and the sort of right-wing politics have convinced working class and poor people that what's going on with like 10 trans people is more important than the cost of your groceries or the cost of your rent or the cost of your mortgage or the cost for you to put your kids in college. Like that's what I care about. I frankly don't care what somebody's opinion is about those like 10 trans people. Frankly, if we want to talk about trans people in sport, I always thought it was really silly to segregate sports on sex. Like what is in your biology anyway? That seems very silly. I feel like we can probably come up with a better way to segregate sports. Like sports ought to be segregated somehow. Like I don't know. Like if you look at like the UFC, like I know UFC is like segregated based on sex too, like biological sex. But they also segregate on weight class, and there's also a lot of like dispute about weight class. Like the heavyweight class is insane. Like heavyweight class starts at I think it's like 180 or something like that, or 200 pounds, and goes up to like 400 pounds. It's like it's crazy how big this range is. So anyway, like I said, I've always felt like segregating just based on sex is silly and arbitrary. Like there ought to be a better way to segregate to make competition fair amongst people. And I feel like that's eventually where sports and things are going to go. Like they have to just figure out a better way to segregate because if we're having all of these stupid discussions about biology, about like what is between a person's legs, frankly, on that's competing in like soccer or basketball or whatever it is, I feel like we've lost the plot a little bit. It's like, what do we really care about? We really care about skill and sportsmanship and ability and those kind of things. And like I said, I feel like if we really put our heads together, I feel like we could come up with a better system than just based on the biological sex that somebody was born with. Like there should be better ways, like maybe weight class, even testosterone level. I wouldn't be super opposed to that. Like there's a wide variety of testosterone. There's people that are assigned female at birth that also are high testosterone level that are like people that are intersexed even that should they be just excluded from sports competition just because they were like born intersexed or that they have high testosterone level. Like we do know that impacts somebody's physical capabilities, but also not that much. Like there are plenty of women that are way better at like basketball or whatever sport it is than I am. So I feel like it's also unfair to look at that. So anyway, these are just things that I want you to kind of keep in mind that like we are living in a really unusual time right now that you have this ideology that has a platform that is frankly just kind of silly. Like if we really break it down and think about it, like trans people have always existed in every society in every time. Like you look at any society across human that we know about in the human record, there have been trans people there, whether you like it or not. They're there. There have been gay people there, whether you like it or not. They're there. And so that's kind of like the point of these two chapters is you have the one chapter on gender, specifically looking at gender inequality and the way that gender inequality has manifested itself through time and what has changed and what's different. I do appreciate. I had the textbook pulled up over here too. I really appreciated as a millennial dad. I really appreciated this discussion on the household division of labor because it is crazy to me looking at the amount of work that I do at home and my friends do at home and the amount of work that our dads did at home and their friends did during that time too. Like, I mean, there's just like no way that my dad or my father-in-law ever changed a diaper. I mean, it's just like there's just no way that it ever happened. Um, and it's just crazy to me. I just don't even know what to say. I mean, and all the dads I know, like it's really like an outlier to see a dad that is around our age, like we'll say like to early 30s ish to like early 40s ish, that it just like doesn't want to do that stuff. I mean, it's like so many. I mean, it's society has really changed so much, and if they do, there's typically other problems going on. Like they have like drug dependency problems, they have gambling problems, they have there's a lot of things that can impact a person's desire and willingness to like be fully present for their family. But anyway, I mean, this is neither here nor there, but it is, and it does bear out in the research too, as you'll see in this chapter that successive generations, going back from like the silent generation to boomers to Gen X to now millennials, you do see this kind of dramatic shift in the division of labor at home. It's still not fair. Like there's still a large share of the responsibility falls on women and on moms. And even when you control for things like education, work, who's doing the work, and things like that, like when you have two, like there's a large body of research, and they mention this in the chapter too. When you have two full-time working parents, the mom still does more than the dad. Like they still both work full-time, even if they have equal pay. They the kids are in childcare, the kids are school age and they're off to school and whatever. The mom is still doing much more than the dad. Even in the millennial generation, whatever it is, like they still see the mom doing a lot more than the dad. And that's something I would encourage my people, my compatriots, if you will, in dadhood, to really keep that stuff in mind when you're trying to do your thing and do your try to help out in your family. I remember my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, just had a kid, her first child. We have two kids, and I was talking with my brother-in-law, her husband, at like I don't know, like some family function or something like that before their kid arrived. And he was just asking for general advice. He was like, "Yeah, you know what? Like, what can we do, or what can I do? Like, what can I do to be helpful in seeing this guy?" I was like, "Listen, what you have to really keep in mind is all the work needs to get done. All the diapers need to get changed. All the feedings need to happen. All the things need to be done. All the trash needs to get taken out. If you don't do it, mom has to do it. All the play dates get scheduled. All the appointments get scheduled. All the appointments get executed, like the kid gets taken to the appointment, all the birthday parties get planned, all of it is, it's going to happen. And if you don't do it, mom is going to do it because somebody has to make sure it does. And I feel like this is traditionally where men fail. The division of labor stuff is that they don't see a lot of it happening because there's just complex dynamics between, husband and wife, mom and dad, whoever it is, the partners that have the kid. And just historically, so much has just fallen on mom to just make sure that it happens. Just make it happen. And this is what moms have always done throughout history, is just made it happen. And so that was my advice to my brother-in-law, was like, don't let mom just make it happen and let her just suffer in silence. Just jump in. If it doesn't, frankly, like if it doesn't involve a boob, which is, there's like a whole territory of things that you can't get involved with because it involves a boob. So if it doesn't involve a boob, it's up for grabs. The doctor's appointments, the birthday parties, the play dates, all of it. As long as you can physically do it, which 95% of it you can, do it. Putting the kids to down for nap, putting them down for bed, giving baths, feeding, all that kind of stuff. Just do it. Um, so anyway, this is like my little PSA about all of this stuff. I do appreciate that they cover a lot of the Me Too things, and they do cover some of the Jeffrey Epstein stuff in here too. Because this book came out, this edition that I'm looking at here came out, I think, like 2 years ago, and then they have a new edition which is available now through the bookstore. I don't know exactly what's in that because they never sent me a copy to review. Um, but I would imagine there's a little bit more. I think I even mentioned this in last week's class. I mean, since all of this new Epstein stuff has been coming out, I've been just thinking about this like nonstop. I feel like we have all been just so wrong in our analysis. Like, yes, there's a problem with billionaires and the 1%, but really the problem is the Epstein class of people, the people that are the ultra rich, but also they act with impunity and have just been manipulating. Because, like, when you really take a moment to think about the intersection of like Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, all of their people that are in their orbit, like Harvey Weinstein was like involved in practically every young adult movie in the 90s and early 2000s, like all those like 10 Things I Hate About You, and like all those movies that like young, like we'll say like 16 to 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, like all that culture that we were all consuming during that time in like the early 2000, like late 90s, early 2000s. um that was like all Harvey Weinstein and all of his like associates, Les Moonves, the guy from CBS. And now it's all coming out about Harvey Weinstein and like all the people like all the young women, frankly, that he was abducting and abusing on his island. And it's just like, and like there was the guy Les Wexler that was just testifying in Congress, who owned like um, Limited, Express, Claire's, like all of these other stores that were targeted at young women and young adults, young men as well too. Abercrombie and Fitch, like it's insane. Like this, like I feel like the millennial generation, this is what we lived under. We lived under this regime of abusers. They were just abusers. They controlled all the companies, they controlled all the culture, all the movies, all the TV shows. And meanwhile, they were just abducting and abusing young women in whatever way they saw fit. And it's just been like, and it's, I think especially now as a dad, it's just been on my mind like nonstop about how like we've just been living in this like fake world kind of that has been manipulated by these people, and it's just a lot to really process and to think about. And so in this chapter, they do go quite in depth about like the outcome of the Me Too movement, the early kind of analysis of the Epstein things, and this was obviously before the release of the files. If you're very interested, there's a website called Jmail that I would encourage you to check out. It is all of the Epstein files, all of the emails put into like a Gmail box that looks like Gmail, and you can search it like Gmail. Um, and you can kind of just see it for yourself and just see what's out there. And yeah, so like I said, I would really encourage you to think about how these things connect to broader society, because like I said, this is not really like if gay people, LGBT people make you feel uncomfortable or weird, it's whatever, right? It's between you and your feelings, whatever. But they do exist, and they deserve equal rights, and they deserve protection just like all of us, and due process and all of these kind of things, and to be able to exist and to have a life with dignity. Um, so this first chapter is on specifically focused on gender issues related to gender. And then the second chapter is issues that are specifically related to sexuality and sexual expression. And typically, these two topics are separated from each other because they are very separate. I mean, women were given, you know, straight women in particular were given a lot more rights than lesbians, we'll say. And if I were to take this a step further, you may have heard the term intersectionality, which talks about the intersection between race, gender, and sexuality. And they do kind of go into that a little bit in this chapter in sexual orientation, and talk about like how discrimination against black women is very different than the discrimination that white women experience. And you all probably, as who are in the class as white women or black women, intuitively probably understand that difference, I would imagine. And these are just things to think about, how we can think about these things as a society, and what does that lead us to? Like, does that lead us to some kind of action of some kind, or does that like what is the imperative that derives out of that? So I feel like that's one of the connecting points to all of these things out of this class. It's like we have all of this research, we've identified these things as social problems, and what are the imperatives that we kind of can derive out of that, and how do we make things fair for people? Because I feel like that's it's probably what most like non I don't know what's the right way to term this. I mean, I feel like on any issue that we talk about, there's probably like 5 or 10% of people that are just very ideological and not going to budge on their personal ideology, and those people are like the outliers in either direction. And I feel like for the remaining 90% of people, they want equality for everybody in one way or another. And what that means it might mean different things for different people. But how do we get to those things? Like, how do we get to equality and for people to have a dignified life where they can live and they can marry the person that they love and not have to worry about discrimination in their sort of day-to-day life? So, okay, I think I've gone on long enough. I've covered the most important things I wanted to cover. Let me know if there are any questions as you're going along, or if you have any problems with the mechanics of the class or anything like that. And by all means, if you have any questions about the material itself, please feel free to reach out to me. And I hope you all have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.